It happened again. You set out in 2025 to have all of these great plans accomplished, all these books written, all of these things published, all of these sales goals met, or any sales goal met, and you were all ready to go. And then the first quarter happened and everything just sort of exploded. And maybe the explosion was a bad thing. Maybe you had issues with sales. Maybe life happened. Maybe online distributors changed things and made it harder to sell your books. Or maybe it was a good explosion, but it wasn't in the area that you planned for. It wasn't something that you figured out into your calendar, into your outline. And now you're going, we had such good plans. What happened? My calendar failed me. Friends, I get you. And yes, this is actually my handheld scheduler that I use in conjunction with my Google Calendar. And inevitably, every single year, I plan out goals. And by the time I get to the end of the third quarter, they've kind of exploded. So if this has happened to you, it's okay. This is why a lot of people actually plan for a 12-week year where they just do quarter by quarter instead of trying to do the whole year. Because, guys, publishing industry is chaotic. It's kind of messed up. It's constantly changing and shifting. You just can't predict things. But what you can do is you can prune things. Yep, we're getting all botanical here. When you prune plants, it helps them to grow and flourish more than if you kept all of that sort of dead growth or even live growth there that wasn't really supposed to be there. In the same way, when you take some time every quarter to do some pruning of your author life, it can really help you to make sure that you're going in the right direction, help you to stop doing things or habits that maybe you fell into that aren't as helpful and aren't getting you in the right direction. And it can also help you to let go of some things that you had plans that maybe just won't be possible for this year. And while surrendering things can be a bit of a buzzkill, it can also free up your time to focus on the most important things for your author life and your unique success. And I'm all about that for you here at Author Culture. So this episode is going to be all about my top tips for how to prune back your goals and plans so that you can move ahead in ways that are going to be the best for you. This is Janeen Ippolito. Let's chat. Welcome back to the podcast, where I help ambitious science fiction and fantasy authors just like you achieve sustainable success in a chaotic publishing world. So if you're all about achieving your unique goals in ways that work for your life season, you are in the right place, and I am so glad that you're here. And real quick, make sure to subscribe on my YouTube channel or on the podcast platform you're listening to this on, or on Substack, where I do have blog posts of many of these episodes. You can also hop onto my paid subscription on Substack, where you will get an additional 1 to 2 episodes every single month on current events or deep dives into publishing industry catastrophes. You also have access to my exclusive subscriber chat. You can submit questions and episode topics, and you get my undying gratitude for helping this show continue. Now, when we talk about pruning, it's all about what worked and what didn't. What did I actually get done? And what just didn't happen? And when we're at this place, I want you to come to the table without beating yourself up. Life happens. Now, you can absolutely do some things to discipline yourself. If you found that you went off the rails, that's totally fine. You can look at a habit and say, wow, I was going to do this. I was going to try to go for an hour of writing a day or 500 words, and it didn't happen, and I'm going to try to do better with that. But don't come here just to beat yourself up, because even if you keep all of your habits in place, the publishing industry is a bit of a hot mess, and so things can go pear-shaped anyway. Now, when we talk about pruning, we're borrowing a term from botany, gardening, all of that stuff. And at the time when I'm recording this episode, I'm in the process of doing late winter pruning in my backyard so that the plants will do well and they'll grow better and all of that. So yes, it's kind of on the brain. And as I did a little bit of research into pruning plants, one of the articles I found from Hicks Nurseries, link below just so that you know what article I'm referencing, talked all about knowing the goals you were trying to achieve with pruning, not just the best way to do it. And we're going to focus on that and kind of borrow that from the botanical area and talk about it in the terms of writing. I am not a professional botanist. I have a moderate green thumb. I can keep a decent amount of plants alive if I set timers to remember to water them. But mostly we're using this metaphor as a way to approach shifting, tweaking, and changing your author life, career, goals, and mindset to suit where you are now, not where you thought you were going to be 3 months ago. You can also use this pruning every 6 months. You can do this kind of reset every month. I would hesitate to do this kind of overhaul every week or 2 weeks, because at that point you need more data. And you know I love data. So this is not the kind of analysis that I recommend you doing all the time, because you need the data from regularly doing the work before you start to assess the results and the outcomes and see if it's going to work for you. So with that being said, I'm assuming you have your data in front of you. You have your 3 months that you're going to review. And on this page that I was reading about, they have a whole list of different reasons that you would be pruning different kinds of plants. I'm going to adapt a select amount of these to the author life. And I say select because knowing how pruning improves the oxygenation of plants isn't something that really transfers easily over to the author life. Although, you know I'm a fan of you breathing. So make sure at this point in the video that you are in fact breathing, and through the rest of your day and week and life, breathing. It's a good thing to do, even though sometimes I forget to do it. So let's dive right in. So the overall goal of pruning and/or cutting back is to maintain health and productivity in your author life. Yes, we want you to be healthy, but we also want you to be growing. There's a push-pull there. Sometimes doing things that are going to be more productive are a little bit uncomfortable, and that is part of the whole process. It's kind of like after you work out, your muscles can hurt. But if you work out too much, or you do it in unhealthy ways, or you don't refuel yourself afterwards with good food, then that will be bad and that will be unhealthy. So we're looking for that balance here as we consider these areas where you could be pruning right now at the end of this quarter, whenever that quarter happens to be for you. Cut out dead, dying, diseased, or damaged wood, aka cut out things that aren't working. Take a look at your social media practices, take a look at your sales practices, your marketing practices overall, and see what's working and what's not. Look at that data. Take a look at your writing processes and your writing practices. Are they working for you, or are they not? Are there things you plan to do, but they didn't really pan out? One thing that I had to make a change about, actually, this was last month, so not quite quarterly, but it still counts. I actually went from trying to write 1,000 words a day to writing an hour a day, because I found that measuring by word count was just too, well, calculated and numerical for me. I needed to have an hour that I could look forward to just losing myself in the writing zone. Having the idea that I had to sit down and try to hit an arbitrary word count was actually stifling my creativity. And in fact, when I gave myself that hour, when I said, okay, you get this hour just to sit and write, I would look forward to it, brainstorm about it, and be more productive. In fact, sometimes getting 2,000 or 3,000 words done in that hour because I was just in the zone. Now, I sometimes have 500 word hours. That happens too. But in any case, I'm enjoying it more and I'm able to do it more consistently. So when you're thinking about what to cut out, don't just think about marketing practices or sales practices. Think about writing processes that just aren't working for you. Think about ways that you're approaching your writing that maybe aren't working for you, mindsets or perspectives that you're holding that maybe aren't working for you. Basically, you have to look at the numbers, and you also have to sit down with yourself and do a little bit of journaling. Next, remove unwanted shoots, aka things that are growing, but you do not have time for. So this can happen sometimes in author life. We work really hard over here, and then for some reason, this thing grows. Now, there's a caveat here. Sometimes this can be the hand of God working to get you into a different direction. For my Christians out there, those who believe that there is a higher power who is in control, sometimes when this area starts growing, that means God is trying to say, no, go over here. So you want to make sure you're looking at these new shoots in the context of your overall author life, because they may be something you need to chase down, or they might be something that is actually distracting you. So if you're finding that you're focusing on your social media platform a ton and you're growing a lot, that counts as new shoots. But is that growth leading to sales? Is it leading to the impact you want? Is it leading to greater comments and engagement? If it's not, and it's taking time away from things like writing your books or doing ads or getting into promotions or other things like that, then even though there is growth in that social media account, that doesn't mean that you need to chase it down. That might be some shoots that you need to remove. And that was a choice I had to make when I actually let go of my Author Elevate account and that whole separate branding for author help and decided to combine it under my author name, Janeen Ippolito, which is also my legal name. Even though Author Elevate was growing, I didn't have time for all of that. I needed to consolidate and have that growth happen all in one place. To use the botany metaphor, I couldn't be tending 3 or 4 different garden beds. I needed them to be in all one place. So think about that. Think about what's growing and think about if it's growing in places where you want it to grow. And then evaluate if this means you need to shift to that new place or you need to just trim back some of that growth, because even though it might be growth, growth isn't always good if it's in an area where you are not called to be. The next thing you need to consider is control size and maintain desired shape. Make sure that your goals and plans still fit with your life and adjust to expand as you choose. Sometimes when we experience growth or just different shifts in our author life, it may not fit in with our actual life very well. So it may be something where your writing is a side hustle, but it's ended up taking up more of your time so that it's taking over time that you would spend with your family, or it's taking over time that you would spend on other work, or you're just burned out because you're working all day and then writing all night. So you need to think about that and think about if you need to prune back your goals at this point so that you can be healthy and sustainable and not burn out. Sometimes when you get to this point, you're already burned out. So if you're there, that's a really good sign that you need to start pruning things back, that you need to trim some things down, and that you need to control the size of how things are growing. Alternatively, if you're growing exponentially in your author life in good ways and in ways that fit with your life, it might be time to say, okay, do I need to adjust my life? Do I need to spend more time on this at the expense of other things? Do I need to shift my priorities in this area? Is this a time for me to make the leap? Only you can answer that. But you need to consider it so that your author life, so that your writing and marketing keeps in a shape and size that fits with your overall life season instead of outgrowing it and getting a little bit obnoxious. And finally, prune to accentuate a particular visual feature. Is the work you're doing helping you to show up in the way that you want? Is the work that you're doing in terms of your brand and in terms of your writing focus helping you to show up in the way that you feel called to? Did you try out some new trends, and they seemed to work, but they didn't fit who you were authentically? Or are you still stuck in some old patterns and you need to adopt some new patterns or some new habits that you tried to fit into, but then you just kind of gave up, fell off the wagon? But you need to think about if the work you're doing is actually helping you to show up and be the kind of author that you want to show up as and that you want to become. Have you gotten closer to that goal? This is something where you're doing a bit of a mirror moment here. And you're also going to hold that mirror up to your social media accounts, to your books, to your writing, to your perspective on your writing, all of that. Again, you got to get out that journal and do some self-reflection and see if you're actually in the place that you need to be. And of course, I have a bonus. Can you automate tasks or outsource them to other help? So often when we're thinking about pruning, it's because you're either burned out or you're close to burnout, or you're just plain frustrated. There are tasks that aren't getting done that should have gotten done by now. Or there are consistent promotions you should have gotten into that you just didn't have time for. Or there was something in your life that was getting in the way of achieving these goals that you wanted to achieve. If you have done the work and assessed that you actually still need to achieve these goals, but you've somehow fallen off the wagon and cutting back won't help you to move forward, then consider if it's something that you can automate, simplify, or outsource to someone else to help you. I understand that this can come at a price point. Outsourcing for help comes at a price point. Automations can also come at a price point, although it can be significantly cheaper to sign up for a subscription of some kind rather than hire an individual. The downside is you still have to go in and actually do the work with the subscription service that you're using to help with your process. Whereas if you were hiring someone, they should be able to do the work for you, provided there's good communication on both ends and they're qualified. That is your trade-off there. But when you're in the process of pruning and choosing which things you focus on and which things you let go of and where you're going to go next in the next 3 months, sometimes the answer is just letting go and releasing. Sometimes it's shifting, and sometimes it is a sign that you need to find some extra help, either with a subscription service, some kind of automation, or hiring someone to help you out. And look, doing this kind of work isn't always fun. It can sometimes be discouraging to look at the last 3 months, that last quarter, whenever that is, and go, wow, I really thought I was going to be farther along. I thought I would be able to achieve these goals, and I can't. It's okay. Your feelings are valid. Feel them, but then don't stay there. Decide on a new path forward that's going to work for you. It might be doubling down to try to achieve those goals. It might be releasing some things, pruning things back so that you can have more space to breathe. I'm doing a bit of both of those right now in my own author life. And I know that in doing that and taking the time to evaluate and to prune and to focus, I am going to be productive with the things that really matter and be able to achieve those goals, Lord willing, and weather permitting. That last bit is a joke because my husband runs a lot of outdoor youth events, but also I have health issues that can be connected to weather. So if it's a bad barometric pressure day, hello headaches. Okay, so where are you, authors? Are you in a place where you need to release some things from the first quarter and let go of some goals so that you can get closer to things you do want to achieve? Or are you in a place where you need to double down and push through to achieve all of those original goals? Please share where you are in a comment on YouTube or Substack. And thanks so much for hanging out with me today. This is Janeen Ippolito of Author Culture. Go forth and be awesome.